Oh my gosh, it's been like 6 months since I've talked about movies, TV shows, or food, or even anything Marvel. I think it's time we fix that. How's it going, everybody? It's Ben from the Ben and Bev channel, and today we are going to be talking about all of the different movies I've seen in the last few months since May. There's been quite a few movies and quite a few shows, so I'm going to go in order of the movies on how I felt about them and where they stood on the scale of not so good, good, very good, great, and well, perfect, because there's definitely been at least one of those this year. As always, thanks so much for watching the videos, and make sure to subscribe below if you want to see more. Let's start things off. The first section I'm going to do is the not so good and the good categories, because I feel like there's a lot less movies in this area, which means it's been a pretty good year for cinema so far. Starting with not so good, I would have to say I was not a huge fan of Insidious 5 The Red Door, or is it Insidious 6? I don't know, I lost track after 1 and 2. So back when I was a kid, I really enjoyed the Insidious movies. I was completely there for when it came out. I thought the first one was like the scariest thing I'd ever seen at that point in time. And I did rewatch the first 2 of them before going into this movie. Well, let's just say the acting was a little worse than I remembered, and some of the effects weren't nearly as crazy, but I still think that first one holds up to be a really good, solid, scary movie for its time. But this new one, Insidious Red Door, they had a nice, easy softball thrown to them on where they wanted to take that plot. You know, you got the original cast coming back, Dalton's all grown up from Dalton to Daddy, and they didn't really do that much with it. The movie was strikingly funny at points. You get to see Dalton struggles as he goes off to college. He has a new roommate. She's absolutely hilarious. She was definitely a highlight of the movie for me, and just the overall jokes were great, but a lot of the long shots where you're supposed to get a lot of emotion felt a little forced. And I know it's Patrick Wilson's first time behind the camera, which I thought was a really cool detail about the movie, is getting to let him film the movie while leading in it. But scares weren't there. Like, there's a couple gross out moments and 1 or 2 really good jumps at the beginning, but this movie didn't really bring a lot to the table, and the way it had nice, almost Disney level ending to the film just left me wanting a lot more from this film and the franchise. So I'm sure we're gonna get more, because these bad boys always make money. And from there, we're gonna move on to the good category. Quite a few good movies. The first one I didn't see in theaters, but saw at my buddy's house. It was Super Mario Brothers movie. Was thoroughly impressed with it. I mean, I heard a lot of people talking down on it, even though it made like $1 billion at the box office, but Charlie Day was great as Luigi, and most importantly, Chris Pratt was outstanding as Mario, and Jack Black as Bowser. I mean, holy crap, he was phenomenal. The in-jokes were really good. I do think it relies a little heavily on knowing game lore and being a fan of Nintendo, but I am one of those things, even though they repackage me the same game over and over, year after year. I thought the film had a great score. I really enjoyed the characters. The little blue wisp was absolutely my favorite character. That evil sense of dark humor popping up in a kid's movie, even giving it the last line of the film, was outstanding. Bowser's song was great. Action was wondrous. The animation was spectacular in that Illumination Studios category. I don't know what more you could have asked from a Mario movie. I thought it was funny, super charming. Not a perfect movie by any means. The plot can get a little clunky at times, but it was just great to see all of these characters on a screen in a well thought out and well made film. The other movie I thought was pretty good around this time was Little Mermaid. Back in May, we saw that for Bev's birthday on premiere night. I gotta say, Halle Bailey was outstanding as the lead of Ariel. She's really great at playing the facial emotion of the animated character and bringing it to life, and I thought Javier Bardem was an okay choice for the dad, and Melissa McCarthy definitely brought some serious vibes as Ursula. The movie has a really great set of songs. I thought both of the new additions, the song by Prince Eric as well as the Scuttlebutt song between Awkwafina's Scuttle and Daveed Diggs' Sebastian, were phenomenal. In fact, they might have been some of my favorite animated characters in the movie. They always looked so hyper real, it was kind of freaky, and there's just a couple of phenomenal scenes that those characters have. The Under the Sea sequence I thought was really good too. It was very well animated to the point that I had like an open mouth on my face by how realistic some of the underwater scenes looked. But I will say the animation is not perfect. It was a little overly dark in the ocean sometimes, definitely adding to that mysterious vibe, kind of like how they did in Wakanda Forever, but some of the mermaid tales and a lot of Ursula's animation left a lot more to be desired. I also thought a little bit of the acting was over the top, but even with the cheesy Disney ending, I think overall it was a very good movie and definitely one of the better Disney live actions we've gotten over the years. As we enter this very good category, there's been a lot of movies that I finally got around to watching. I've been waiting to see since, well, 2016 and 2015. The first one of those was Moonlight, an Oscar nominated and I believe winner that I thought was, well, heartbreaking. Very well done movie. I thought it was great. The really spacey, slow type of storytelling they're using, letting the emotion of the actors and the score and the way the film is shot tell the story more so than by dialogue was absolutely phenomenal, though I do understand some people's critiques that it's a little slow. If you went to it to see Mahershala Ali, he's only in the first act, and that's not a big spoiler, but the movie is about a guy who grows up his whole life not really knowing how to explore his masculinity being a gay man, growing up in a rough environment and not really being being able to embrace that without facing various levels of disrespect and violence, whether that's from his crack-addicted mother or the boys at school. And you get 3 acts that show you him at various points of his life, each played by different actors, and I thought all of the actors were great, and even though they don't all look super alike, they did a great job of embodying this silent character. He was a phenomenal lead. The middle sequence where he's a teenager was definitely one of the more painful scenes to watch. When Mahershala Ali is there, he is absolutely phenomenal in that first act. The ending was interesting because it leaves things open and doesn't give you a full answer on where his emotions are explored when he reconnects with his one old friend from high school. Cool to see the way this character evolved and tell a different story in such an interesting and thematic lens that really has you emote for that character. It's very good, but at times it can just be brutal with the themes, and if you're not in a good place, maybe give this one a chill pill for a little bit, but I absolutely loved it. Another film that I finally got to watch this year was 2015's The Lobster, starring Colin Farrell and Rachel Weisz. It's directed by Yorgos Lanthimos, a Greek absurdist, extremist black comedy director. He has a lot of different subgenres that all kind of feel like the same wheelhouse. I've only seen one other of his movies before. It was Killing of the Sacred Deer, which was absolutely mind-blowing and immediately made me a fan. And I own Dogtooth and The Favorite, and I'm very much looking forward to his movie Poor Things coming out this year. So I'm really excited to finally dive into this director. I'm planning on watching all of his movies, especially after this one. It's about this bizarre society where if you're not partnered up with someone, you end up being turned into an animal within a certain amount of time. And there's this program you go to where you get 45 days to explore and try and find a mate and hopefully have a chance. And there's these people that have run away from this hotel that are loners. And every time you hunt them down, if you succeed, you get a little more time to not be turned into an animal. And it just plays on the absurdity of the plot so much that it's almost hyper-realistically absurd. The acting in these movies is absolutely bizarre. Usually not a lot of dialogue, and dialogue that's there is just crazy sometimes. I don't even know how to explain it to you. It makes you laugh in this weird way of feeling bad for someone. And the movie flips the script in the last half of the film, and I thought that was a really unique way to handle it. The cold ending, you are not completely sure what happened, but the way, I don't want to spoil anything for you if you do watch it, it's just an absolute thrill ride. I watched it on the night leading into my birthday, and I couldn't have been happier to watch such a strangely bizarre and at times messed up movie. The last movie closing out the very good category is another phenomenal animated movie that's been building a lot of hype this year, and that is Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. I saw this as a double feature over at my buddy's house after Super Mario Brothers, and I was in awe at the animation style of this. At times it looks a little overly crude, but jumping into that unique storybook-esque type of drawings where you feel like you're looking at a painted picture, kind of like an old school Studio Ghibli film, or even hints of an original sense of animation like the new Spiderverse movie. It's about Puss in Boots trying to not lose his 9th life. Crazy to me that they used mortality as a plot, trying to find his way in the world before he's run out of time completely. I don't want to spoil too much here. It is a emotional and hilarious at times animated feature. It is a great entry in this expanded Shrek universe that DreamWorks has going, and the subtle references to the Shrek movies were also phenomenal. I thought Arito was an awesome character, this little dog that wants to be a cat and just wants to have friends, but he's extremely stupid. He has a great emotional arc. Salma Hayek's character, going blank on that name, that's worked with Puss in Boots before, was also phenomenal, but Antonio Banderas stands out in this movie, carrying the emotional weight of an adventuring cat who's on his last leg. Embraces terrifying characters like a wolf that is literally death, as well as a really messed up version of Jack Horner, voiced by John Mulaney, who's equally parts hilarious and twisted. And the way the movie balances all this, it feels almost otherworldly that this is a kid's movie. They absolutely hit it out of the park. It's a great movie to see with kids or without. Highly suggest. We made it here, guys. We're on the great movies section of this tier list. I'm just amazed how many entries there are on it from this year. Like, most of these movies are new. Totally caught me off guard, but I think we should start with the one I've waited the longest to review. And as a Marvel fan, it pains me that I didn't get around to it during the hype train, but Guardians of the Galaxy 3 was phenomenal. It was long, but it didn't matter because just the way James Gunn filmed it, he gave each character an emotional arc. Rocket in particular, I thought Chukwudi Iwuji was really great as the High Evolutionary. Over the top evil. It was way more dark and graphic than any previous MCU villain. In fact, I feel like they kind of pushed the gore a little bit in this film, whether it was with the scenes of Rocket's past or with a couple fight scenes later on in the film. Will Poulter as Adam Warlock, standout side character. Absolutely kick-ass soundtrack too from the 90s, as well as pulling songs from the other films for nostalgia's sake, and they just nail it. All the emotional beats. There's a heaviness to this movie. I love that they had Gamora there as the alternate version, but it's very clear that she is a different version, and you have to have Quill come to terms with that. I thought Nebula as well developed a lot in this movie. Mantis and Drax even more so. I mean, all of the characters had such a great arc in this film and wrapped up this series so nicely, where even if they do make more films later on, I am so glad we got a beautiful, heartfelt, hilarious, and absolutely epic finale. Great job, James Gunn. Once again, I mean, seriously, one of the best Marvel movies of this phase. I've been a fan of a lot of them, but the emotional weight and the comedic depth put together and nailed it. Loved this movie. Next, that brings us to a very recent movie, a horror film, actually, from A24. Shocker, I absolutely loved it. But talk to me. Oh my gosh, this might be the best horror movie I've seen since Hereditary or The Lodge. I mean, it had me on the edge of my seat. And what's crazy is the first part's kind of funny. If you haven't seen the trailer, it's about a group of kids that are using a ceramic hand to possess themselves to get some sort of weird high out of being out of their body. Our main character is mentally tortured soul, we'll say, and try not to give away too much here by description because a lot of the plot details really tie into this story. But she's lost her mother and has a really bad relationship with her father. She has a better relationship over at her friend's family's house, where the mother is played by the actress that played Éowyn in Lord of the Rings, Return of the King, the only actress that I actually knew in the film. She was absolutely great as well. But the lead actress, oh my gosh, she does such a good job of playing the possessed version of herself, the tragic version of herself, and just this teenager who really doesn't know where to go in the world now that they've lost their parent and don't feel like they have a personal connection. Though a lot of the movie is comical, watching these kids intentionally film one another and kind of meanly make fun of one another as they're being possessed by another spirit, it slowly starts to get out of control as they go over into the 90 seconds. And there's a particular scene about the middle point of this movie where the fun gets sucked out, involving a slightly younger child than the rest of the teenagers. And I mean, it was like that scene in Hereditary. It sucked the air out of my lungs. I could not breathe, and from that point on, I was not even looking at anyone else in the theater. I went and saw it with two people. I was like completely sucked into it. I had no idea what to do. Watch characters make bad decision after bad decision, and you slowly realize that maybe they've been affected by this possession disease the whole time, and it just gets absolutely twisted, utterly devastating by the end of the film. I thought the ending was also outstanding. It was a great, unique way to kind of tie the whole movie together, and definitely not going to be shaking anybody's hand anytime soon after that one. Another great movie I saw that's also probably on my top 10, maybe top 5 theater experiences I've ever had is Barbie. We went to the early showing of this, the Barbie block party as they called it. We dressed up, loads of people there. It is absolutely the fullest theater I have been to since COVID happened, and it was just as full as Avengers Endgame was when that came out. I mean, this theater was stacked front to back. Everyone's decked out in Barbie gear. There's pictures and drinks and all types of cool stuff you could do themed around Barbie. Just a great film to make an experience out of. And then once the movie starts, it is this bizarre satire on what Barbie is, while also being meaningful to what Barbie could be, and also showing the irony of Barbie being owned by a group of men in the Mattel Corporation who are all millionaires. It even pokes mean fun at them at the same time. I mean, Greta Gerwig hits it out of the park. The visual palette, the soundtrack, everything about the Barbie movie feels like you're in a Barbie dream house, and there's a central plot line about Barbie not understanding her own mortality and getting feelings of death and what it really means to be human, and that was way bigger than I was expecting for how silly this movie is. And there's even a bit of Ken not knowing who he is as a solo person and not just being there to dote on Barbie. In fact, that I'm Just Ken dance number has to be one of my favorite songs that came out this year. Ryan Gosling is stealing the show as Ken too. Every time he's on screen, you're just like, oh gosh, this is a nightmare. And just the way they put the politics of Barbie Land into the real world politics after they visit was absolutely hilarious. Pokes fun at everybody and does a phenomenal job of balancing two very different tones. I thought the ending was great, and the movie was way more emotionally impactful than I thought it would be, while also being probably the best comedy I've seen in years. And the last entry on the great movie list is Beau Is Afraid. So Bev and I saw Beau Is Afraid at an early showing that I didn't know was an early showing, but it came with like a t-shirt, a Beau silk outfit. I went in knowing that it might be very messed up because of Midsommar and Hereditary. Bev has not seen either one of those films, but she knew this one wasn't scary, and after The Joker, both of us have been really attracted to any movie that has Joaquin Phoenix in it. The guy is an acting super force, especially in crazy roles. This movie is no exception to that, but it's also far different than any of Ari Aster's other movies. It's 3 straight hours. I had to run to the bathroom so many times. I'm hoping I didn't miss too much. And in each hour, you get a completely different change of pace with what this movie is. It's about a main character named Beau. He needs to go visit his mother, and then something tragic happens, and now he has to make it to his mother in this horrible circumstance while also getting lost, kidnapped, in the woods with the random Renaissance theater troupe. He goes on a Eric Carle style painting animation adventure in the middle, and there's elements of Truman Show as well as some Franz Kafka level anxiety. In fact, it's almost like the whole world is his anxiety. You're seeing like the worst case scenario that he could have. There's some odd and unique humor in it as well. It's very dark. but I mean, the whole theater was laughing out loud for large portions of this movie. When they weren't laughing out loud, they were sitting there in terror and dread, just awaiting what was going to happen to Beau next. It's pitch black, anxiety-ridden, almost uncomparable to any other movie I've seen. Just the different tones it has and balances. In fact, when I saw the trailer for this movie, I could tell it was going to be something special, something on the Everything Everywhere All at Once level of balancing a million different themes and tones. And what's even crazier about this one is you kind of don't know what's going on. From the very beginning, each time you think you've worked out what the plot is going to do, you get hit with another left hook, and suddenly you're just like, I don't know where Beau's going to end up. I don't know why this is happening. And that's the headspace Beau's in the whole time too. You really feel for him. As pathetic and miserable as he can be at points, you are rooting for him to win despite all of these horrible things going on to him. I would not suggest this movie enough. I don't think a movie like this will get made too frequently, but out of all the artsy, crazy, I don't know what the hell's going on movies I've seen, I think this one is definitely one of the best ones. It might even be my favorite Ari Aster movie. It took me like 2 weeks to figure that out because of how emotionally and mentally tired I was when I got out of the theater. It felt like you lived Beau's whole life with him. Dun, 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 dun. We're in the perfect movie section, and there's only been one movie in that all year for me so far, and I don't even expect to get a perfect movie every year, but Spider-Man Across the Spiderverse. It is a total animation delight. Every single clip of this movie looks like a painting. The soundtrack by Metro Boomin is flawless, as well as the score for the film, blending in with it, just some great themes. Miles Morales is one of my favorite Spider-Man, and then they introduced 2099, voiced by Oscar Isaac in this movie as well, who's another one of my favorite Spider-Man. And I just love the narrative choices they took. You get a little more backstory on Gwen before you get super updated on where Miles is at. The super huge uptake in focusing on animation to relay emotion in theme in this film was mind-blowing. I've never seen anything like this on a screen. They're using animation to its fullest extent, in my opinion. I felt that way about the first movie. That's my favorite Spider-Man movie until this one came out. Like, the smallest side characters have huge roles. Andy Samberg is Ben Reilly, hilarious. Daniel Kaluuya is Spider-Punk, has to be one of the best parts of the movie, and he's not even in it that long. And yes, it ends on a cliffhanger. I thought it was great, especially since I knew it was going to be part 1 of 2. It was like the end of Infinity War. Like, I'm itching for this movie, and now with the issues with the studios and the strikes and everything, I don't know when it's going to come out, but I mean, they take as much time as they need because it set up an epic tale for the next film, but most importantly, it told a very beautiful story about family, about what it means to be Spider-Man and care for those around you, really about power and the dynamics it can have on a kid like Miles Morales at such a young age. I mean, yeah, there's a bunch of Spider-Man fun Easter eggs, but just like the first movie, the plot of the movie is extremely dark at points. You have to let bad things happen to people you love, even though you know what's going to happen because of multiverse nonsense. They just want him to let it happen, and he's not going to do that because he's Miles Morales, and I absolutely love that for this lead character. Shamik Moore is outstandingly voicing him. Haley Steinfeld is great as Gwen. Issa Rae, phenomenal job as Jessica Drew. I mean, hell, I don't even know what else to say besides everyone did an absolutely great job in this movie. It is beautiful, highly suggested. You should definitely see it on a big screen if it's still out, and you should definitely buy it. Oh my gosh, it's a true spiritual delight, like nothing that's been done before, and I'm extremely excited for that finale, especially with the way they cut things off. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you made it this far, definitely subscribe below if you want more content like this. I'm planning on doing a episode on the shows I've watched because I've watched a lot more TV this year than I ever could have expected. At this point, I feel like I'll mention some movies I'm still looking forward to. Unfortunately, my most anticipated movie of the year, Dune, is going to be next year in March. I'm really looking forward to More Things by Yorgos Lanthimos, the director of Lobster, with Emma Stone, Mark Ruffalo, and Willem Dafoe. It looks absolutely ludicrous and weird. I'm definitely going to be checking out all of his other movies before that and maybe do a video on him specifically since I own all of them now. I'm also really looking forward to Wonka, actually. I think Warner Brothers might actually be hitting it out of the park 2 times in 1 year. Barbie and then Wonka. It just looks great. Timothée Chalamet is a great casting for a prequel movie to Willy Wonka, and I just think it looks like a good, fun time. Directed by the guy who made Paddington. What could go wrong? So other movies that sounded really interesting to me this year that I haven't seen yet, we got Honorable Society that looked like a cool action comedy, a little bit of Bollywood flair and martial arts thrown in there, as well as They Clone Tyrone, the Netflix original. I really need to sit down and watch that one at some point. I just love the style, the funk themes, and the way they're blending everything together for the old school blaxploitation style film. Jamie Foxx looks great. John Boyega. I mean, another one I missed that I really wanted to see in theaters was Past Lives, a A24 romantic drama. Not my normal type of movie that I like to go see, but just the trailer really entranced me with this debut movie by the director, and I don't know, something about it seemed like it would just strike all of the right emotional chords. And an opposite note, a movie that I don't think's been doing well critically, but always a polarizing rising good time for me is M. Night Shyamalan's Knock at the Cabin. That movie looked crazy. It was great to see Bautista in a bigger role as well as Rupert Grint. I imagine it'll be some of that ludicrous twistiness that we get from the guy, so hopefully we can be able to check those out soon. If you guys have seen any of these movies, leave a comment below which one was your favorite, or if I should avoid them, or definitely give them a shot. We'll see you guys next time. Ben and Bev, out.